Welcome back, and joining me with his take on the day's market action is Andrew Padoa from Sasfin Wealth. Thank you so much for your time, Andrew. What has stood out for me today is that the rand has been behaving itself, even though we do have Trump's inauguration today. Is this just a sign of, is this a good sign, or maybe just thin trading?
I think it's a bit hard to tell, Zanati. You know, what we've seen with the rand the last couple of months is that it strengthens slowly, but then it weakens quickly. But we've seen a nice little recovery from the rand the last few days. But I think we have to just wait and see what Trump 2.0, how it goes, what tariffs and policies he decides to implement.
Yeah, and actually just to zoom in on that and really how the markets are feeling about it, because I do know that with the Trump trade in the US, you do kind of get a rally, but also does that kind of filter through to us or not, or do we just have the opposite effect?
So I think it's definitely positive for US markets. We should see some economic growth, or better economic growth in the States, which should help the earnings. So that's on the US side. But in South Africa, I think on our side, it's very much what's going on in China. You know, we're very much a commodity-driven country. We rely on China to buy all the things that we mine from underground. And so I would say, from a South African perspective, it's probably a little bit more important what's going on with China as opposed to what's going on in the West with Trump at this stage.
All right. Well, it is not just about Trump's inauguration. This week, we also have the World Economic Forum taking place in Davos, Switzerland. What are you opening your ears out for there?
So I'm expecting to hear, you know, the Team South Africa to sell the South African story to the world. We're now going there as a united front politically with the GNU. Last year, it was a different story. So I think there's a little bit of optimism with that, and it's a bit of a different picture. My worry, though, is we can't just sell a story. We actually need to prove the evidence of things changing. So, you know, we've got Eskom under control, but our manufacturing data that came out the other day was negative. You know, why is our manufacturing down even when we can switch on the lights? So I think there's still obviously some structural issues we need to still figure out. Last week I was in Sandton, or actually in the whole of Joburg. I don't think I found one robot working. So there's still a lot we've got to do. We can't just sell the story. We need evidence as well.
Indeed, indeed. Well, let's go into some of the company news that came out of the JSE today. Not a lot, but let's actually talk about South32. Earlier on, you spoke about the stuff we mine from the ground. They came out with a quarterly update talking about a strong start to the year, saying that they've increased production and met guidance on all their operations except for their Mozambique operations. Of course, you know the civil unrest that is impacting that country. Just talk to me about that report, your sentiment towards it.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty decent start to the year. Like you said, guidance hits with all the kind of sectors apart from Mozambique, and that's totally understandable given what's going on there. We also saw mention of the buybacks and guidance kind of reaffirmed. I think investors just need to be careful with commodity companies since they're just so cyclical. If we look at South32, and it's not just South32, it's just that miners in general, South32's shares have ranged between 20 Rand and 60 Rand the last 5 years, which is a very, very big swing. And that's commodities for you, super cyclical. So I think investors just need to know what they're doing.
Yeah, very, very cyclical. So it's been quite interesting to see those share price movements as well, but really also the M&A activity that is going on there. Pretty exciting space, I guess, if you are an investor that does thrive off some sort of risk. Yeah. So let's go into Murray and Roberts. Such a small company looking at where it is trading now. So they came out with a business rescue update. Of course, they did announce this in November, but saying that they have gotten some funding amid the business rescue of the South African operations. Talk to me about what stood out for you there.
So just looking back, when I was at pre-primary 35 years ago or so, there was construction at the preschool, and it was Murray and Roberts. There was a massive sign outside. And so they were kind of the poster child of construction back in the day. So it's really sad to just kind of see where they are now in this business rescue predicament. But what they did say is that the underground mining businesses continue to operate and have not been affected by the business rescue. And then, like you said, they've managed to secure some funding. So it seems that there's a little bit of a positive story emerging despite the business rescue. And they're confident about a successful rescue of the business. Time will tell.
but I mean, at this point, would it be on the radar of any investors?
Well, they're suspended on from trading, so we'll have to just kind of wait to see how this all plays out.
Yeah.
I think construction and mining are just very cyclical businesses. Maybe short-term trade when they come back. It wouldn't be a longer-term play for me, but I suppose it just depends on the investor and how much risk they're willing to take.
All right. Well, Andrew, let us get to your stock pick for today. What are you choosing?
Sure. So my stock pick tonight is Berkshire Hathaway. You know, like I said earlier, I think the U.S. economy will do well under Trump, and Berkshire should be one of the beneficiaries. But if markets fall in the States, and I'm wrong, you know, Berkshire has a $325 billion war chest of cash on their balance sheets, which they can use to, you know, do a lot of purchases of great companies at cheap prices. And that is why Berkshire is my stock pick tonight.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your insights on what has moved investors' money today, Andrew. That was Andrew Padoa from Sasfin Wealth.